Hello, this is Pajama Boy, Project Lead of Wolves. I'm joined here once again by Nightly Doggo.
Hey, I'm Nightly Doggo, and I'm the texture artist for New Day Fiction.
Recently, over the past couple years, it's been a real joy to watch Wolves gain the significant amount of traction that it has. And naturally, because of that, we're seeing an influx of new users. People on Twitter, people on Discord, Wolves content is doing better and better. And quite frankly, a video like this is relatively overdue. This is a starting point for all of our new people, and maybe even a little bit of a news dump for the people who've been with us for a long time and already kind of know what to expect. Now, before we get into the questions, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the game. Wolves is a third-person shooter. It's based on a game called Mechassault for the original Xbox, developed by Day One Studios. We've been working on the project so far since about late 2017. We've released 2 playable demos so far in a content release format we're calling Waves. Waves consist of 4 new mechs, 1 per weight class, and most of the time they'll be shipping with added maps, added modes, updates to graphics, things like that. So right now we're focusing on Wave 3, and Wave 3 is going to introduce a multiplayer to the game for the first time. We're just putting the finishing touches on the core functionality of multiplayer now, and we know exactly how we want our modes to play. But before I go and give everything away too early, I think the best thing for me to do is to hand off a question to Doggo. Doggo, if you'd please get us started, my man.
The Crafty Dog asks, will you make this game moddable? It would be cool to see what the modders out there could do when they get their hands on it. Modding is an important part of the Mechassault community, and while we would like to support it, there's a variety of reasons we cannot. One of the big ones being that the game content usage rules don't really specify anything about making content for a fan-made game. We can't really stop people from modding the game regardless, but if we were to officially support it, we can't verify that every piece of modded content follows the game content usage rules.
We love modding. It added so much longevity to a game like MechWarrior 4, but until the circumstances change, we are in a position where we don't really know what's okay and what's not okay. So it's better to be safe than sorry in our case. Symbiotis asks, what game modes do you plan to make once you begin development on the multiplayer? Wave 3 is all about establishing our fundamentals, which means you probably shouldn't expect a ton of modes at launch. To get started and to establish what kind of sandbox we want to build, we need to build our core modes first. That's destruction, that's team destruction, that's CTF, stuff like that. As things stabilize and people are happy with the balance and people are enjoying the game, we can start to look into the more diverse stuff. We're already exploring the options of combined arms, for instance. We're also experimenting with developing a new variant of Grinder to test the functionality of tanks and choppers. It's called Grinder Turbo, and we'll have some more information about that in the future. Like I said before, our focus with Wave 3 is really to establish the fundamentals. So an example I can give to put it in perspective is we might not be thinking about adding Snatch It right now, but we are thinking about adding mech selection between lives in a similar format to Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Progrock Ponscum asked, will Wolves add any original mechs or weapons? As of now, we only plan to make additions to the game that exists in the MechWarrior, Mechassault, and greater Battletech universe. This applies to both mechs and weapons. So the chance of us making any brand new custom additions to Wolves are unlikely, but we will definitely be bringing in new stuff from the Battletech universe itself.
It is much easier to modify existing weapon types in the Battletech universe than it is to design completely new ones from the ground up. @ChiliDogBites on Twitter asks, can you explain in more detail how Wolves obtained use of the MechWarrior IP? And would the Wolves team recommend other aspiring devs try this same approach if they wanted to make a successor to an old MechWarrior title? This is a really good question, I'm going to be honest with you. Let me tackle this in order with that first question. So, in the first question we answered, Doggo pointed out Microsoft's game content usage rules. We live and die by these rules. I highly recommend anyone who's interested take a look at the full document. It'll be linked in the video's description. And the reason these rules are so important, the top little line right here. These rules, so long as they're followed, provide you with, and I quote, a personal, non-exclusive, non-sublicensable, non-transferable, revocable, limited license for you to use and display game content and to create derivative works based upon game content strictly for your personal, non-commercial use. We've taken a ton of care to make sure that these rules have been followed over the past 5 years, and so long as Microsoft doesn't exercise their right to pull the plug on the project, it can't be said that New Day Fiction doesn't have a license to develop this game. Of course, that license doesn't really offer much protection, so I wouldn't go flaunting that I have a license to anyone official. Now for the second part of that question. This is something that I kind of want to do a deep dive in a video on my personal channel. Kind of my experience with fan games and whether or not I would recommend it. I will say that it's not something to be taken lightly. If you decide to work on a game, that game is going to be like a pet. It's going to be a responsibility that follows you around for many years of your life. I stick with it because I see a lot of value in this team, and I have overwhelming passion for Mechassault. I mean, I really wanted to see this series continue growing up. And through making this game, something became apparent to me personally. That if I was going to drop 30 years into a career, that 3D art might be the path to take. And that's pretty powerful for someone in their 20s. Once again, really good question. The last 5 years, I really just want to get out there. I would love to just put them on paper, but that's a topic for a completely different thing. Don't worry about that. We're going to get back to the Wolves questions.
Okada Kalen asks, are there any plans to add alternate loadouts, like how the original games had Timberwolf and Mad Cat as separate mechs? We currently have no plans to add alternate loadouts to the mechs in Wolves. Any alternate loadout, whether it's an entirely new and custom one, or a classic alternate loadout returning from Mechassault 1 and 2, they will be featured in Wolves with its own mech model to accommodate it. The Mad Cat Mark II, Arctic Wolf, and Puma are all examples of this. The Mark II is an entirely new loadout, while the Arctic Wolf stands in for Mechassault's Belial, and the Puma is, well, it's the Puma from Mechassault as well.
And in a similar vein, we have a question from @SirBean5 on Twitter. He asks, how many waves are currently planned? I know singular mechs have been confirmed, but I'm curious how many full waves. Well, if you follow the Wolves account on Twitter and you know me, I usually like to keep the mech roster close to my chest. I would be pretty foolish to put an exact number on it, but I can definitely say that we have enough waves to carry us into the foreseeable future. We can only produce mechs as fast as I can work, so I don't think we're running out of content anytime soon. And of course, I'm always looking forward to what's next in the pipeline, so there's plenty of motivation to work. You guys just gotta hang in there.
Thanks for having me on, boss man. Can I go home yet?
Hope you enjoyed our Q&A, and I'll see you among the stars.